Have you noticed something shifting between you two? The spark that once lit up every conversation seems to be flickering. Where your chats once flowed effortlessly, now they feel strained, lacking the energy they once had. The enthusiasm in her replies has slowly faded, and you can't ignore the growing distance in her presence. You still hear from her, but it's more like a slow trickle of communication. She makes plans, but they don't have the same warmth, and you can't help but wonder if you're imagining it. Deep down, though, you know, her interest is waning. Here's where most guys miss the mark. They panic. They act out of fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being replaced, fear of watching the connection slip away. And what do? They overcompensate. More texts, more calls, more attempts to reignite the spark. They start pushing harder, thinking that if they just try enough, they can force attraction to return. But here's the kicker: this never works. Attraction isn't something you can hustle or force. It's something that grows organically when the right emotional atmosphere is cultivated. When a woman senses desperation or feels that you're trying to fix things rather than naturally create attraction, it can make everything worse. It brings back the same issues that made her lose interest in the first place. So, why does this happen? Most men jump to conclusions and blame external factors. She's too busy, maybe she's seeing someone else, or maybe she's just having an off week. The truth, however, is that her interest fades when the emotional engagement drops. What women crave is a man who keeps things exciting, unpredictable, and emotionally dynamic. It's not about playing games, it's about maintaining an energy that keeps her intrigued and emotionally connected. Without this, things start to feel too predictable, too easy, and that's when attraction fades. She doesn't intentionally choose to lose interest. It's simply because the excitement that once existed is no longer there. So, trying harder only pushes her further away, making her feel like she has the power to dictate the situation. The secret to winning her back. It's all about reigniting the natural spark, not forcing it. When a woman feels like she holds all the power, she starts to lose sight of the value of what she has. Think about it. What excites people the most? It's the feeling of having to earn something worth having. When she no longer feels like she needs to work for your attention, your time, or your presence, she starts taking it all for granted. This is where most men make the mistake of reacting out of fear. They panic, thinking they need to do more to keep her, to prevent her from slipping away. But here's the secret. The most powerful move you can make isn't to chase her harder. It's to create space. And not as some calculated strategy, but because your energy should be flowing toward self-improvement, not toward chasing someone who isn't fully valuing you. When you shift your focus from desperately trying to win back her attention to becoming the man who naturally commands respect, things start to change. She begins to notice the absence of your presence, the lack of your constant attention. She starts to wonder why you're not reacting the way other men would. That uncertainty, right there, is what reignites attraction. It's not about playing games or ignoring her intentionally. It's about stepping back into your own frame, the one where you were before she began pulling away. The version of you she was initially drawn to. The man with purpose, the one who had a life of his own, who wasn't waiting around for validation. As she senses this shift in your energy, she doesn't just see you differently, she feels you differently. And once that happens, she can't ignore it. That's the magic of absence. At first, she might not realize anything has changed. She might think it's just a temporary phase, that you're simply busy or distracted. So she waits. But as time goes on and the silence grows, she starts to feel a subtle discomfort. She checks her phone, expecting to see a message from you, only to realize that it hasn't come. The good morning texts that used to brighten her day, gone. You're no longer engaging with her on social media the way you used to. You're not reaching out, not showing up, and that's when the first spark of uncertainty flickers within her. At first, she won't admit it, not even to herself. Her ego will tell her that you're just busy, that you'll eventually come back around. So she waits. But the longer the wait goes on without hearing from you, the more uncomfortable she starts to feel. The truth is, women don't fear losing attention that came too easily. What they fear is losing the attention that made them feel truly special. And in this moment, she's beginning to realize that what she thought was a guaranteed connection isn't as certain as she once believed. She'll scroll through your old conversations, reminiscing about how you made her feel, and then the questions start to creep in. Did he lose interest in me? Why hasn't he reached out? That uncertainty is the spark that could reignite everything. Attraction is all about emotion, not logic. She doesn't need a concrete reason to miss you. She just needs to feel your absence in a way that rattles her sense of control. That's what's happening right now. She begins testing the waters, trying small gestures, maybe a random like on your post, a vague text with no real substance, or a comment on something she knows will grab your attention. She's not doing this because she's ready to chase you down, but because she wants to see if she still has a hold over you. This is the turning point, the moment that will decide everything. If you react immediately, if you jump at the first sign of attention, if you rush back in at the slightest breadcrumb, you confirm her suspicions, that you were never really gone, that you were just waiting for her to reel you back in, and that she still has full control over your emotions. And once she feels that, the spark dies all over again. But if you don't fall into that trap, if you remain focused on your own life, keep moving forward and radiate the energy of a man who's equally fine with or without her, the dynamic shifts. Now she's the one feeling the uncertainty. Now she's the one wondering where she stands. And for the first time in a while, she feels something she hasn't in ages: desire. Not for a man who chases her, not for someone begging for her attention, but for a man she feels she could actually lose. That's when the game changes and she starts chasing you. When she feels like she's truly losing you, she won't admit it, not even to herself. She'll act like nothing's wrong, like your silence doesn't bother her, like she hasn't noticed the shift in your energy. But deep down, she feels it. Before, she might have assumed you were just trying to get her attention, thinking you'd eventually cave in and come back, just like all the other guys before you. But this time, something feels different. You're not playing games. You're not ignoring her to mess with her emotions. You've simply moved on, or at least that's how it looks. And that's what disturbs her most. You see, women don't immediately react when they start losing attention. Their emotions don't work that way. At first, they convince themselves they don't care. They fill their days with distractions, friends, social media, anything to avoid confronting the feelings they're starting to bury. But eventually, the distractions fade, and the reality starts to sink in. Because when she slows down, when she's alone with her thoughts, you inevitably come rushing back into her mind. Not because she wants to think about you, but because she can't help it. It's human nature. The more we try to suppress something, the more it fights to resurface. And then, the deeper the realization sinks in, the truth that she may have lost something she wasn't ready to lose. That's when she starts feeling what she hasn't felt in a long time: insecurity. She's used to having control, to knowing where she stands with the men in her life, to being the one who decides when and how attention is given. But now, you've changed the game, and she's caught in a battle between her pride and her fear. That's when you become irresistible, because now it's her turn to chase. Her pride tells her to stay silent, to hold her ground, and to make you be the one to reach out first. But then there's her fear, and that's a different beast entirely. Her fear whispers something she's never had to consider before. Maybe just maybe, you're not coming back this time. And that thought, that flicker of doubt, sparks an anxiety she can't shake. Now she's no longer just wondering about you, she's obsessing over every little detail. Why did he stop chasing? Is he seeing someone else? Did I misread everything? What if he's actually moved on? And it's that last question, the one that sinks deep into her mind, that becomes her obsession. For the first time, she's entertaining a possibility she never considered, the idea that she lost you not because she pushed you away, but because you outgrew her. That realization stings. It's the moment she starts fighting emotions she thought were long buried, feelings she swore she'd never allow to surface again. She thought she knew exactly how you'd react, but now she's left guessing. And that uncertainty, it's a feeling she can't ignore. Once she starts feeling that, the power dynamic shifts. Now she's no longer in control. Now she's the one questioning herself, wondering if she let something good slip through her fingers. And in that moment, she begins craving something she once took for granted: your presence. It's not the same kind of craving she had before. It's not based on her need to feel wanted. It's rooted in the fear of losing something real, something she can't get back. And that's when she starts reaching out in ways she never thought she would. At first, she tried to convince herself that the distance didn't matter, that she could move on without a second thought. But now, something's different. She thought you would react like every other man, to chase her, to ask what went wrong, to seek closure. But the longer you remain silent, the louder that silence speaks. It's no longer just a gap in communication. It's something she feels deep in her bones. And that feeling, it's getting under her skin. She scrolls through her phone, half expecting to see your name pop up, but it doesn't. She stops herself before posting, wondering, will he see this? Will he care? The certainty she once had about your attention is gone, and that uncertainty, it's something she's not used to. That's when curiosity turns into discomfort. It's no longer about the fact that you're absent. It's about the fact that she doesn't know what you're thinking. Before, she could predict you. She knew that if she pulled back, you'd step forward. If she gave less, you'd compensate by giving more. But now you're the unknown, and that uncertainty, it's what keeps her awake at night. That moment of realization shifts everything for her. It forces her to question her own feelings. Why does it feel strange that he's not around anymore? Why am I suddenly wondering what he's doing? Did I really underestimate what he meant to me? These thoughts start to unravel her as the emotional shift takes root. She might try to suppress it, pretending like she doesn't care. She might fill her days with distractions, going out more, hanging with friends who validate her, trying to convince herself that everything is fine. But deep down, nothing can replace the absence of what used to be there. This is the emotional turning point. She's no longer seeing you as just another guy. She's realizing you weren't like everyone else. And as that realization sinks in, it gets harder for her to ignore the empty space you left behind, the weight of losing something she never truly valued. When she walked away, it seemed like the easiest decision. She never had to fight for your attention. You were always there. Things were effortless. And because of that, she never really had to earn your love. Letting go felt simple in her mind. She had control. She had options. She thought that if she ever wanted you back, you'd just be waiting, ready to pick up where things left off. But now it feels different. The change is subtle. It doesn't hit her like a ton of bricks. It creeps in slowly, catching her off guard. The first time it happens, she barely notices. She's out with friends, living life as if nothing ever changed. And then it hits her, this nagging realization, a thought she didn't expect. You haven't reached out. It's been days, maybe weeks. And for the first time, she's feeling doubt. Not about the breakup or what was said between you, but about you. She expected you to try harder. She expected you to send at least one more message. She thought you'd react to her posts, or at least check in. But there's nothing. No texts, no "I miss you" messages, no likes on her pictures. And that's when she starts to realize this isn't what she thought would happen. She checks her phone, scrolling through past messages. She rereads old conversations, even opening your chat, but she doesn't type anything. She tells herself she's just reminiscing, that she's curious, but deep down, she knows she's facing the first sign that she's losing control. She pushes the thought away, distracting herself by getting dressed, going out with friends, maybe even flirting with someone else, just to prove to herself she still has options. But no matter what she does, it doesn't feel the same. The attention is shallow, the compliments ring hollow, the laughs don't hit the same way. Something's missing, and she can't ignore it. No matter how hard she tries to convince herself she's fine, the truth is starting to seep through. She underestimated you. You weren't like the other guys. You weren't the type to wait around, begging for validation, clinging to whatever crumbs of attention she threw your way. You were different. And now she's realizing that a man like you is rare. She won't find someone like you again. That's when the excuses start. At first, it's subtle. Her pride won't let her be direct. She'll try to ease her way back in, testing the waters. A casual message, a reaction to something you posted, a vague excuse to start a conversation. But underneath it all, she's seeking something deeper. She wants to know if she still has you. She needs to know if you're still emotionally tied to her. Because the thought of you truly moving on, that's something she never prepared for. She wanted control. She wanted space. She wanted to see if she could do better. But now, as she sits alone with her thoughts, replaying memories, wondering if you even think about her anymore, she realizes she never considered what it would feel like to lose you for good. And that's when the real fear sets in. If this video gave you the clarity you needed, hit the next one on your screen. The moment you stop chasing, everything changes. Don't miss what's next.